like to call to order this meeting of the Susquehanna Township Board of Commissioners. All commissioners are present with the exception of Commissioner Johnson, who is excused. We'll begin tonight with a Pledge of Allegiance followed by a moment of silence. And I would ask that the pledge be led by Commissioner Rabarchak.
Oh, they moved it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to our first meeting of the new year. First up on the agenda is petitions, complaints, suggestions from citizens. Do we have any members of the public who would like to speak tonight? Anybody? Okay. We'll go for the approval of minutes from our December 13th regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we're going to do a presentation tonight. We're actually going to have listen to two presentations, and the first involves the issuance of a proclamation. So I would ask Commissioner Napper to join me, along with Dave Wolf, who is the commander of a nearby legion. Right.
I'm going to use the stand here if we could. Okay. And I'll let you. Okay. Should we slide? Yeah. Makes it a little easier work. All right. Today, Susquehanna Township is going to give proclamation number 19P-01. Whereas on February 3rd, 2019, it'll mark the 76th anniversary of sinking of the U.S. troop transport ship, the Dorchester, which carried to their death 4 U.S. chaplains of 3 different faiths who stood united in prayer as the ship went down. These 4 chaplains, a Roman Catholic, a Jewish, Methodist, and Dutch Reform, gave their own life jackets to 4 soldiers, and thus sacrificing their own lives to save the others' lives. The heroic deeds of the chaplain were Lieutenant George Fox, Lieutenant Alexander Good, Lieutenant Johnny Washington, and Lieutenant Clark Poling. And their combined efforts of acts of supreme devotion and sacrifice of American liberty and human freedom will be an inspiring, ever-shining example of real brotherhood for all times of the people in this world. We must all see it, that their supreme sacrifice to the common cause of human freedoms and justice for all shall not have been in vain. Now, therefore, we, the Board of Susquehanna Township of Susquehanna, do hereby designate Sunday, February 3rd, 2019, to be observed as 4 Chaplain Sunday, and the week of February 3rd, 2019 be observed as the Religious Emphasis Week, and call upon all our citizens to commemorate this day and week with appropriate observance in public places and by prayer for their homes and houses of worship. Signed and presented on this day, the 10th of January, 2019, Stephen C. Napper, Commissioner Warden. Here you are, sir.
Just by way of introduction, I'd like to note that with us here tonight is Dave Wolf. Ray Wolf, or Dave Ray? Okay. Ray Wolf, who is the commander of 730? Post 730, which is in Susquehanna Township, and they're forgiven for calling themselves Pembroke. And the proclamation read tonight was by Stephen Napper, Commissioner of the 9th Ward, who is a past commander of Post 1001 here in Susquehanna Township. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Ray Dave. Let him take it.
Good middle name. I would like to thank the commissioners and thank all the veterans who have served in Susquehanna Township, present and past, for their dedication to the military in this country. This proclamation presented by the commissioners in recognition of the 4 chaplains who did give up their lives to save 4 more people from death from the sinking of the ship. Their outstanding heroism just tells you what we soldiers will do. The post itself, and I'll give you a short history here. Pembroke American Legion was established in Pembroke. After World War II, though, all the religious people of Pembroke said, no, we're going dry. We had to move to Susquehanna Township. We're glad we On Sunday, the first Sunday of February, every first Sunday of February this year, actually, February 3rd, the same day as this accident, at 9 o'clock in the morning, we will be holding a memorial service for the four chaplains. You are all invited to come. Anybody can come and join us at Pembroke American Legion on Walnut Street in Harrisburg. And if you don't know where it's at, I always tell people, next to Kentucky Fried.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Bam.
I would also note that the award was presented by one of two veterans that we have here on the board, Commissioner Napper of the Army, and Mona Johnson, who's not here tonight, also of the Army. I'd like to thank them both for our service.
Thank you, sir.
All right, moving on. We have a presentation from Kevin Sedella of Pro Champs. Is there a Kevin in the house? Kevin, you can feel free to adjust the podium if you like.
Is that all right?
That's fine.
Well, thank you for having me, Commissioners. Property registration isn't nearly as heroic and exciting as what you just heard, so it's hard to follow that, but I'll do my best. Pro Champs is a company that has been working with Susquehanna Township since 2014. It's a partnership. It's a very unique vendor relationship in that we've never sent you a bill. We only send you checks. This service doesn't cost the taxpayers of Susquehanna Township a dime. And we work with 194 different communities nationwide across 13 states on property registration solution, rental registry, vacant property registry, foreclosure registry. So basically when the grass gets this tall and the windows are busted out and your staff struggles to find a point of contact, someone who can be held accountable for the code violations that exist at the property, somebody that they can go to when the neighbors are complaining. That's what we do. We built a database for Susquehanna Township that contains all your parcels, not just the foreclosures. We focus on the foreclosures and the vacants, get them registered, collect the registration fee, and populate the database with a point of contact so that you can communicate with them easily. It's a communications tool we forward as anything else, but again, comes at no cost to you. As a matter of fact, since 2014, we've sent about $40,000 back to Susquehanna Township in the fees that we've collected. The way it works in Susquehanna Township, we get $100 for every successful registration that we collect. So I say we kind of sing for our supper, and the other 100 goes back to you. Those checks come every 30 days. But it works really well. And you can see I gave you a little piece of paper here with all of the registrations that we've collected, 416 since 2014, 89 last year. We actually got 2 today. We know we can do better. I want a chance to do better. There's a kind of a glitch in your ordinance, if you will. The way your ordinance writes, it doesn't currently allow for renewals. So basically, if we register a home in 2016 and it stays in a state of foreclosure, say your staff doesn't get a phone call about it being a problem until 2018. They go in and try to use our database, and they found out in the 2 years, everything's changed, which happens a lot. These properties, I was just telling Mr. Grubick, these properties are treated a lot by institutions, sort of like an 11-year-old kid would treat baseball cards. They're swapped back and forth. They change over multiple communities, thousands of properties overnight, and you have no way of knowing it. So the renewals would really help Susquehanna Township have crisper data, so to speak. The other thing is semi-annual registration. What a lot of communities require, Lower Paxton is one, Harrisburg is another, locally, is twice a year. If they stay in a state of default or they're vacant for an entire year, twice a year we're going back and trying to register them, make sure that we have the right data in there. All of it is just so when your staff needs it, they have the right information. And then the fee discussion is another thing I wanted to talk to you about. Your fee is $200. A lot of communities are charging more. Some are charging in Pennsylvania as much as $500, but I would say $300 is reasonable. But all of this is up to you. We'll continue to do the service just as it is right now, but I think we could provide a better service if we made a few tweaks to the current ordinance. But regardless, I just wanted to stop by and see if that's something you'd be interested in, see if you have any questions about the program and the service that we provide, and just say hi and thanks.
Mr. President,
Yes.
what would it take for us to adopt those suggestions?
I think we need to, so the two suggestions are, the main ones are adjusting the fee schedule for the registrations, and the other would be to allow the registrations to become automatic once they're registered. Is that right?
Well, I would say do the renewals, allow for renewals, so that these homes, if they're staying in a state of foreclosure for multiple years, are renewed, but change the renewal frequency to a semi-annual requirement, so twice a year if they're staying in, and we're coming back and seeing if it's still in Bank XYZ's hand. Is XYZ property management firm still supposed to be accountable for cutting the grass or maintaining the sidewalk, make sure the sidewalk's clear?
Who would be subject to the renewals? All properties or just certain classes of properties?
Vacant properties and properties in a state of default.
That are registered, right?
Right, as long as they're registered. Now, sometimes we deregister properties every day too. And if the institution comes back to us, or the individual we previously registered came back to us and said, no, it's no longer in a state of default, we sold that home to a private owner, we would just take it off your list. We deregister those properties quite frequently.
Kevin, does this also involve government mortgages, FHA, VA? How does that play?
You have exemptions for HUD, for government agencies. We typically don't register those. It's hard for a government agency to charge another government agency a fee.
Yeah.
But we do register them. We just don't. They don't give a fee.
Because I had one instance in my ward where there was a problem property, but it was a government mortgage, and I don't know, it was a VA or FHA or what it was, but it was a.
Those are a little harder to deal with, but like I said, the database has every parcel in it, and we really want to make sure your staff is trained on how to utilize it. I think we set up a training with Betsy that's coming up here, but there's literally a button you can hit in the database that would tag that property for a review, and our staff, we're committed to a 24-hour turnaround time on those reviews. We'll let you know what we find out, and we could even make a phone call to HUD to see if they could get somebody out there to do the bare minimum to the property.
Right.
Because they have so many, it's hard for them to pay attention to one property, and banks are no different. This is kind of a squeaky wheel gets the grease. That's why the program is in place, so we can continually go to those people and say, hey, this is a nuisance, you've got to maintain it.
Right.
In the case of HUD, property just a few blocks from me was in a constant state of deterioration. I must give credit to Joe Vida, who actually bird dogged it. He called HUD. He found a person. The guy talked to him and said, we'll fix it. It was done the next week. So the township does have resources. If we don't have the registration, we still can get to government agencies.
Yeah, but again, that's a function of the program. So while that individual did not, the HUD mortgagee or mortgage company did not have to register the property, the information as it relates to contact is still in the program, correct? So Joe utilizes this program quite continuous. As you remember, you just kind of renewed your agreement with Pro Champs at the end of last year. So. But, Kevin has talked to us and sees some enhancements with the program based on best practices in neighboring communities.
It works really well, and since we first got this adopted in 2014, we've expanded a lot across the country and learned a lot along the way. We have 37 communities we're working with here in the state of Pennsylvania, so I know we can do better for Susquehanna Township. We got 89 properties registered last year. It was a pretty good year. I would think if we did these adjustments, it would probably be closer to 120 registrations a year, which, what does that mean to you? More points of contact on more potentially problematic properties and more money from the revenue, from the fees that are collected. What a lot of communities do with the fees that are collected from our program is put it into a grass mowing program so that it's not a loss to the taxpayer. You can pay for the grass to get done on some of these dilapidated properties. Not the ones we registered, they should be handled by the property managers, but I know there's other types of properties out there that are in a state of disrepair that you have no way of tracking them down. Believe me, I've been in your shoes. It's one of the reasons I'm here. I'm kind of like the hair club for men.
But in this case, you were commissioners in neighboring Susquehanna or
Switter
Township.
Yes, sir. Yes, we were the first in Pennsylvania to adopt this program, and I really took a liking to it, and kind of took a minor role as a regional salesman first, and now I'm the national salesman, so I have the entire country to cover. But you're close by, and it always kind of pains me to see 50%, what we call a 50% discount, which is kind of internal talk, but it basically means that we're not getting everything we could be for Susquehanna Township, and you're right down the road from me. It's kind of an embarrassment. I want to make it perfect for you. I want to make it work better.
So if we went to semi-annual registration, do they pay the fee twice a year then?
If it stays in a state of foreclosure, yes, sir. But the whole idea is to get it out of a state of foreclosure. We want them to get it in the hands of a taxpayer, of a private citizen. But some of these homes will stay for years. Years.
Yeah, I have some experience in that field.
Kevin, do you also want to speak to who's obligated to pay the fee?
Sure.
Yeah, just so that there's some clarity as to who's being assessed this fee.
Absolutely. On the foreclosures, it's banks in other states and other countries. Some of them are here in Pennsylvania. These aren't being paid by your residents. They're being paid across multiple communities at one time. So we're literally, what we're doing is contacting the foreclosing entity and saying, here is Susquehanna Township's ordinance, here is our contract to administer the program, these are all the properties that you have to register, and then they get back to us, one at a time, and we gather them slowly. Like I said, we got 2 today in Susquehanna Township, which is a really busy day for this community. We usually don't get 2 in a day. But on the vacant side, it runs the gamut. It could be residents. It could be someone who owns the property, inherited it, they live in another state. Those ones are a little bit harder to track down. But we work with the communities a lot. The best way for us to make the vacant property registration successful is to have utility data shared with us. So if you have trash service or gas or water, sewer, if the bill's going somewhere else, we can kind of get a path to an obligation to register that way. Vacant isn't nearly as successful, but it's sound policy, and it's a good thing that Susquehanna Township has that in place. So when you have a problem, you have something to fall back on. But sometimes residents pay the vacant, absolutely, but not the foreclosure. And if I think you had a case where there may have been one resident that got billed. I mean, we've registered 1 million properties nationwide in the last 10 years, 108,000 last calendar year alone. I can't think of any instance where that occurred. But if it does, let me know, and we'll find a way to fix it. We certainly don't want that to happen. It's not supposed to go to the resident.
Any other questions? Thanks for stopping by.
But thanks for having me.
So,
Thank you, Kevin. Yes. I would ask that Dave work with the solicitor and Betsy and noodle on it and come up with a proposal for us. And any relevant committee members, commissioners.
Sounds great.
I'll be happy to do that. Thank you very much for your time. It's great to see
Thanks,
all of you.
Kevin.
Thank you.
All right, reports of committees, Buildings and Grounds, Commissioner Rothrock.
Thank you, Mr. President. The only thing I have to report is the energy audit was completed on these 3 buildings on this parcel, and the report was issued. The Buildings and Grounds Committee is going to be meeting with the representatives from Reynolds, which is the company that did the review, on January 16th at 11 a.m. Here at the Township Building, and we're still waiting to see if Solar Resources Energy is going to also attend that meeting, because they really do tie together their proposal with the energy audit. And we're working toward a proposal to convert to the use of solar energy. And that's my report. That's all I have.
Thank you. Budget and Finance, Commissioner Sanderson.
and thus we begin again. We don't have any scheduled meetings yet. I would suggest that we meet in March or April, because I think we need a little time to assess early tax collections. The tax bills, invoices should be appearing in our mailboxes momentarily. This is how the invoice process begins, the yearly schedule. So I'm not suggesting that we meet at the moment, but I do think that if the committee as a whole, the whole board, wants to add any policy changes, policy directions to the same process that we followed last year, I would certainly welcome them for agenda items for discussion. We are now in first year of a 5-year process, which means that process begins again for another 5 years. So it will take some adjustment and reassessment on what our expectations were in terms of revenue and expenses. And we are in a constant state of discussion about projects, roads, for example, infrastructure, and emergency services always seem to be near the top. Equipment purchases for the highway crew. We did a lot of work this year in making sure that Township's residents receive the best service possible, regardless of the weather. So if you notice that the Township roads are breaking up, it's because we're going through the freeze-thaw cycle, and that's going to be a topic of discussion for the next 5 to 10 years, and how we implement changes and improvements and efforts to preserve the infrastructure. So I will work with Township staff to suggest a meeting date, no later than April, but perhaps as early as mid-March. And stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Works, Commissioner Napper.
Yes, Mr. President. In the month of December, the sewer authority's staff moved all their equipment and documents to the highway garage. This week, the Public Works Department will wrap up the final leaf management area number 4 for the 2018-2019 season. During the final week of leaf collection, the Public Works Department will revisit and clean alleys in wards 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. In addition, we will dispatch our street sweeping trucks to clean all areas from curb to curb, beginning in ward number 5, and work north until all wards are swept. Next week, we will begin our street repairs and potholes projects throughout the township. Commissioners, please feel free to forward all calls and complaints, concerns, potholes, or roadway repairs to Mr. Nate Spriggs, the Public Works Director. That ends my report, sir.
Well done. Thank you. Health and Sanitation, Commissioner Barczyk.
Thank you, Mr. President. Penn Waste will collect Christmas trees and yard waste on Saturday, January 12th, as well as Saturday, January 19th. Please be sure to remove all ornaments, lights, and tinsel from trees before placing at the curb for collection prior to 6 a.m. on collection dates. Please do not place trees in plastic bags. Thank you.
Thank you. A tree blew into my yard with the winds yesterday and had tinsel on it. Oh. What do I do with that?
That's for fingerprints.
Decoration.
I'd call your commissioner about it.
I may well do that. Administration and Personnel, Commissioner Napper.
Yes, Commissioners. The Admin Personnel Committee provided to the board a spreadsheet noting the employee wages for 2019 for its review and approval. The wages are consistent with those incorporated into the approval of the 2019 budget. As a result, for not reaching a new collection bargain agreement with ASME, wages for ASME highway employees have been frozen at 2017 levels. Please note, wages may be increased during the course of the year, consistent with the applicable collection bargaining agreement throughout further approval for actions by the Board of Commission. I motion to approve the 2019 employees' wage effective January 1, 2019, as noted in the report received from the Admin Personnel Committee.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. Police, Commissioner Engel.
I believe we want to move a patrol officer to permanent status.
We do, Commissioner. Officer Kevin Slider has reached the end of his first year, and I highly recommend him for permanent appointment as a patrol officer with our department.
Mr. President, I move to grant permanent appointment status to Patrol Officer Kevin Slider. Slider.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Slider. Officer. That's it, Commissioner?
That concludes my report, sir.
Right.
Slide.
Fire and EMS, Commissioner Fleming.
No report, Mr. President.
Wow, I'm speechless. Between you and Commissioner Marchand.
Don't let him keep moving.
All right, Recreation, Commissioner Johnson.
Now that you mentioned, oh, I'm sorry.
It's like a down, man. It's down, it's done.
I have a brief report. Thank you. The Parks and Recreation Department is now accepting applications for summer employment for the Parks Program and the Day Camp Program, and you can find information on the Township website or contact the Township building directly. Thank you.
Thank you. Planning and Zoning, Commissioner Rothrock.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Planning Commission meeting that was scheduled for the 17th of December was canceled due to a lack of an agenda. There was a zoning hearing board meeting last night, and the hearing board determined that the city of Harrisburg did not have standing to bring their request to that board. So that was a fairly short meeting. We also had a design workshop pursuant to our comprehensive plan yesterday at the First Alliance Church. And we looked at development options for Progress Avenue, Walnut Street, and Union Deposit Road areas. And there were some, I thought, very interesting ideas for redevelopment, particularly of key intersections and also shopping plazas that are going into decline as, Amazon kind of takes over the retail. I was only there for a portion of the meeting, but Ms. Logan was there, and Commissioner Pine, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I don't have anything to add. You'll see the results of the draft plan shortly.
Right. Yeah, I basically feel the same. And I agree with your assessment that it was some good work on those areas. We talked about intersections, but we also talked about the commercial establishments on Union Deposit Road, and these are long-term plans, but there's things that we can do to encourage good growth and good development, and I think it was a good conversation. I look forward to the comprehensive plan.
And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you. All right, bids and agreements. Intermixit is our IT provider, and there is a proposal. Mr. Kratz, would you like to discuss that?
Sure, I'd be happy to, Mr. President. As noted, this is a proposal from our existing IT provider. If you'll recall, Intermixit was selected via a request for proposal process in 2017. The agreement that's before you proposes an engagement for 3 years, for the years of 2019, 2020, 2021, at a fixed price of $7,300 per month throughout the term of the agreement. As an alternative, I had an opportunity to talk to Intermixit about the potential of, if the board was not comfortable in entering into a 3-year agreement, the board could elect to enter into a single-year agreement at the same stated cost of $7,300. However, it's likely that we would see inflationary increases in subsequent years if we were to retain Intermixit. The cost, as it relates to this year, is consistent with the adopted 2019 budget. So from our perspective, again, we went through a competitive process where there was an evaluation. We see no objection in engaging them for the 3-year period, and then likely would recommend at the conclusion of that 3-year period to reassess this service provider and go out for RFP at that point. I think, again, there was a fair amount of work. There's a fair amount of work on onboarding somebody, particularly an IT consultant, that is critical to our operations. And there's a lot of moving parts from an IT perspective, and there's still things that are in the mix that they've intimately been involved in and have provided us with good guidance and good service in those regards. So again, our recommendation would be the 3-year contract, but again, recognizing there is some length to that, we also wanted to provide you with an opportunity to consider a 1-year engagement if that's something that the board was inclined to favor.
Move to adopt a 3-year recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Did you get the second, Janine?
What services are included with this?
They're complete services. I mean, they function almost as, so they're here weekly. They're constantly monitoring our network. It's a full service, full turnkey engagement. So they function almost as, the chief information officer for the township.
Are they involved with the township website at all, or no?
They do not host it. That's through another provider. However, they do have some involvement with the website from time to time if there's some issue. So.
Okay. Been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And Aquatic Environment Consultants Agreement, Waverly Woods Pond.
Sure. This is for the pond that's at Boyd Park, formerly known as Waverly Woods Park. Again, a relatively small scope. Total proposed cost is $2,680. Relates to ongoing pond management program for the purposes of treating algae, pond weeds, and pond locusts. Both the scope of the work and the price are consistent with the pricing that was provided in 2018. Just to give you some background, before we engaged these folks in doing this, there was a time, and Gary, I don't know if you ever observed that, either prior to you becoming a commissioner, but there was a significant issue as it related to a pond lotus that was starting to form on that pond, which was creating some challenges for us. So again, it's from our perspective, it's well worth the $2,600 investment that.
Yeah, I have to say, I think it's a very healthy-looking little body of water there,
Yeah.
really.
They handle all the permitting, anything that's necessary. They do the applications. Obviously, they're positioned to do that. So.
Move to adopt.
Second?
Moved and seconded. I see the sum of $2,680
That is correct.
is that for the year?
That is for the entire year. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. That's money well spent, I think, if I may editorialize. Given a shallow body of water and the fact that we're going to be plowing significant resources into that, our friends at the Boyd Foundation. And that it's in the second ward, so.
Well, it's the only
Nothing to do
water
with it.
feature we have in the township, I think.
Well,
from the river.
there's the lovely Susquehanna in the first
That's not quite true.
Sean had a body of water. in the
Yes,
sixth
there
ward.
was a Wood Street Lake, which was unfortunately drained. It went zoom and it's gone.
Dam broke down.
Yeah, dam broke dam.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even a lake, it was sort of a nice, placid area. And it was on private property. But it was still nice to look at.
Right near the aviary.
Yes, well, yes. We have many wildlife features.
Any other inane comments before we go on? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance 19-01 for the placement of a sign on Cloverfield Road for east and westbound traffic at the intersection of 38th Street.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Second. Chief, I don't know if you want to address this, but this is the result of the one that we talked about last summer as an attempt to try to calm traffic on Cloverfield, especially heading east. Yeah. Okay. Any comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Just to ride through that intersection without stopping.
Road rage. Margaret's Grove Phase 2A. Request to reduce site improvement guarantee for Margaret's Grove Phase 2A from $618,387 to $164,724. Township Engineer Grubik has reviewed the request and recommended approval. It's in Ward 2.
I was going to read the same thing, so I don't have anything to add.
Move to adopt.
Please do it, and then we'll vote on the best presentation.
Move to adopt.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any comments? Is there anything you'd like to add to this?
No, I have nothing to add.
Is this the expansion of the townhouses where they're doing site work?
Yes, it's correct. It's the expansion of the Margaret's Grove townhouses south of Continental.
I was out there yesterday. There seems to be a lot of work not complete. There's a trench for utilities that's open. There is paving of the base paving, but the road stubs out at two locations. Like, is it going to continue? Is that?
There will be subsequent phases.
Okay.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
This is Phase 2A, and there will be, I think, 4 phases in the entire development, Commissioner.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, unfinished business, is there any?
There is nothing beyond the report that's in the packet.
Okay. Reports, Mr. Kratzer?
I have nothing further, Mr. President.
Chief, do you have anything else?
Yes. Chief, is the traffic study from all those accidents a couple months ago, you and I had discussed in reinitiating a traffic study. Is that something we should bring up?
I've already issued it.
Oh, you have?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Mr. Engineer, do you have anything tonight?
Our report is in your packet, Commissioners. If there are any questions or anything needs to be addressed, I'd be happy to talk with you at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Miller, solicitor business.
Our report is in the packet. And of course, we briefed you on matters involving litigation and executive session. I would ask that the board consider the approval of a agreement between Lieutenant Brian Kaufman and the township. Lieutenant Kaufman is set to retire on January 15th of this year. I've reviewed it. It's appropriate as to form and legality, and I'd ask for favorable consideration from the board.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thus concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Mr. Fire Marshal, do you have anything tonight?
No, sir.
Thank you. School Board, Commissioner Fleming?
No report, Mr. President.
He's on fire.
2 for 2.
You okay?
Just fine.
The flu. Did you have your flu shot?
Wow. Some people get a reputation around here.
8th Ward, man.
It's Steve Revham.
He's 8th Ward.
Authority, Commissioner Sanderson.
No report, thank you.
Indian Wheels, Commissioner Barczyk.
No report?
Shade Tree, Commissioner Barczyk.
No report, thank you.
All right. No communications. Parks and Rec, I think we covered. Okay, I think that's it. New business. Boards and commissions. Mr. Kratzer had reached out to all of us about folks who are on boards and commissions that would like reappointment, or those who have expressed an interest in service to the township in various capacities. So if it's okay, I'd like to just read over those who have expressed an interest by category. And if there's a consensus to approve those people, to move, ask for a motion and a second and a vote. Does that work? Yep. Okay. First set is for the Recreation Advisory Committee, and this year is all the even ward representations. Incumbent Jim Wiley has expressed a willingness to serve an additional term of 2 years. In mighty Fourth Ward, incumbent Chris Krawcheck has wants to re-up. Ward 6, Amy Sturgis likewise would like to serve again. And Ward 8, we're still looking for somebody in Ward 8. And as far as at large, incumbent Bill Thomas has agreed to serve for another term. So is there a motion to accept those?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Emergency Management Coordinator has been chaired for the past 3 years by Brad Reist, and he has expressed a willingness to serve for another 3-year term. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our very active, aggressive, and busy Industrial and Commercial Development Authority has a vacancy. That is, my term has come to an end. And I've talked to my commissioner, and he's expressed a willingness to serve for another term.
I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Frank Lynch to the Industrial Development.
Second.
Yeah, ICDA.
Yeah. Gotcha. Moved and seconded. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I'll pass on your goodwill.
get to that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Property Maintenance Appeal Board, incumbents Gary Lenker and Bill Creason as an alternate have expressed willingness to serve for an additional 3-year term.
Move for reappointment?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Planning Commission, pros Frank Klebnico and Kerry Wilson are willing to serve for an additional 3-year term.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the authority, Eves Pollard has expressed a willingness to serve for an additional term of 5 years.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Health Board, Dr. Bruce Goodman is willing to serve for another 5-year term if the board is so willing.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Shade Tree, incumbent David Rocaseca expressed a willingness to serve an additional 5-year term.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Human Relations Commission, Sharon Reinert and Stan Lawson have expressed a willingness to serve for an additional 3-year term.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries if there are no opponents. We do have one that has expressed a desire that he would like to take advantage of the end of his term and not be reappointed. I think he has other irons in the fire. So we do have a vacancy. So we'll be on the hunt for another representative to serve the 3-year term. I think that's it. Is that all, Mr. President?
That is all, Mr. President.
What?
I'm
was in-
pretty sure that was in the motion.
That was-
Yeah.
We did stand on the
motion.
Do 2 at a time.
Okay. Okay, Commissioner comments. Do we have any comments tonight?
Great to be alive.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Mr. President, I make the motion to accept the report of bills paid in the amount of $2,532,801.54.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're out of here.